NASA is fast-tracking plans to build a nuclear reactor on the moon. And no, this isn't sci-fi. It's a race. One where the prize isn't a medal, it's control of the moon itself. Behind this bold move is a rising concern. China might soon claim strategic dominance over the lunar surface. But why is nuclear energy suddenly a top priority in space? What does this mean for the future of space exploration and Earth itself? In this video, we're diving deep into the moon reactor race, uncovering why the US is in a rush, how this ties to China's own ambitions, and why 2030 might be the year that changes everything. To NASA isn't just dreaming of lunar power anymore, it's building it. For years, scientists have floated the idea of putting nuclear reactors on the moon to power future bases. But now, under interim administrator Sean Duffy, the idea has leapt from theory to reality. The agency plans to deploy a 100-kilowatt nuclear reactor on the moon by 2030, marking a major shift in how the US sees energy and competition on the lunar surface. This isn't the first time NASA's looked into nuclear options. Previously, they funded work on a 40-kilowatt concept called kilopower. That system was designed to demonstrate that compact fission reactors could work in extreme environments like the moon or Mars. But this new directive aims for more than a demo. It's going big, fast, and strategic. A 100-kilowatt reactor could power a permanent lunar outpost, support scientific missions during the moon's 14-day night cycle, and enable sustainable operations in regions like the South Pole, where sunlight is scarce. Unlike solar panels, nuclear power doesn't rely on weather, daylight, or surface conditions. It just works. And that's what makes it so valuable, especially if you're trying to maintain a foothold in a harsh, remote location. The new plan doesn't just increase the power output, it sets a hard deadline. NASA is being directed to assign a project lead within 60 days and open the project to private sector proposals. That means Lockheed Martin, Westinghouse, or even space startups could be in the running to build humanity's first off-world nuclear plant. But this sudden urgency raises a huge question. Why now? The answer lies not in engineering, but in geopolitics. And to understand what's really fueling this rush, we have to look across the globe and up. The true driver of NASA's nuclear reactor push is not technical necessity, it's fear of being locked out. Behind closed doors, US officials are warning that the first nation to deploy a power source on the moon could claim territory, establish long-term infrastructure, and even define keep-out zones for rivals. And right now, China and Russia are not just planning a lunar mission, they're planning a lunar presence. China's space agency, in partnership with Roscosmos, is working on an international lunar research station, an ambitious permanent base near the moon's south pole. It's set to be operational around 2030. That's the exact same year NASA now aims to install its reactor. Coincidence? Not likely. The concern is that if China lands first and sets up a base powered by its own reactor, it could de facto claim surrounding lunar territory, possibly denying others access to key resources like water ice. This isn't wild speculation. In 2022, NASA Administrator Bill Nelson warned that China could try to control the most valuable parts of the moon, especially those rich in frozen water, which is essential for life support and fuel production. This fear has intensified as China's space program rapidly accelerates. The Tiangong space station is already up and running. Chang'e missions are exploring the lunar far side. Their astronauts are training for moon landings. And when combined with Russia's expertise in nuclear propulsion, their collaboration suddenly looks like more than exploration. It looks like dominance. So what exactly is a keep-out zone? In space law, the Outer Space Treaty forbids sovereign claims. But there's a gray area. If a country builds infrastructure and declares safety zones around it, others may be discouraged from approaching, especially if there's a risk of collision, radiation, or military defense systems. That's where the politics get tricky. NASA's internal directive reportedly highlights this risk and frames the moon reactor as not just a power project, but a geopolitical countermove. In short, the US wants to get there first, or at least not be last. And this isn't just about the moon. This reactor is part of a much bigger strategy, one that also involves Earth orbit. 2030 is becoming the most critical year in the modern space race. Not only is it the target date for NASA's nuclear reactor and China's crewed moon mission, it's also the deadline for a major orbital shift, the retirement of the International Space Station. The ISS has been a beacon of international cooperation for decades, but it's aging. NASA doesn't want to risk a gap in orbital presence, especially with China's Tiangong station fully operational. So the agency is now fast-tracking contracts to commercial companies to build the next generation of space stations. According to Politico, they plan to award at least 2 contracts within 6 months of a formal request. These new platforms will be privately run but NASA-supported, potentially by companies like Axiom Space or Blue Origin. The idea is to transition from one government-owned station to a network of commercial outposts, keeping the U.S. deeply involved in low Earth orbit operations while freeing up NASA to focus on the Moon and Mars. So what does all this have to do with the Moon reactor? Everything. The U.S. doesn't just want to build power systems, it wants to build space infrastructure across domains. From lunar bases to orbital stations, the goal is strategic continuity. If the ISS goes down before a replacement is up, China would temporarily have the only crewed station in space. That's not a gap NASA is willing to accept. Meanwhile, private sector momentum is accelerating. Companies are already building lunar landers, habitats, and nuclear technologies with NASA funding. The recent success of Artemis I and upcoming Artemis II and III are laying the groundwork for returning astronauts to the Moon and staying there. In this context, the nuclear reactor isn't just a standalone project. It's a cornerstone of a larger architecture, one that ensures American astronauts, scientists, and companies have power, presence, and protection on the lunar surface. And that brings us to the final question. Why does this matter to us today? What's happening now isn't just a technical leap. It's a strategic pivot. The Moon is no longer a symbol. It's a resource-rich outpost that could determine who leads the next era of exploration, commerce, and even defense. A nuclear reactor on the lunar surface isn't about showing off. It's about showing up. The decisions made in the next 5 years will shape space access for decades to come. And for the first time in history, the battle for the high ground may not be on Earth, but 238,000 miles above it. Thank you for watching. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. For more, see you next video.